Roussell, and I'm an independent curator and museologist specializing in photography. I'm honored tonight to be moderating this live on behalf of the Musée Barbier-Mueller in Geneva, Switzerland. Our talk is in some ways a virtual opening for an exhibition that opened today and will be on show until June 15th, 2021. It's entitled Wabi-Sabi, The Beauty of Imperfection. And the exhibition is a special collaboration between Steve McCurry, a master photographer, and the Musée Barbier-Mueller. Considering the current situation in Switzerland and around the world, I'm sure everyone can understand that unfortunately it wasn't possible for us to gather in traditional ways. But instead we've organized this live to talk about the exhibition concept and give you a chance to meet Mr. McCurry and hear some of the amazing stories that are behind his photographs. The exhibition was curated by the museum team, led by the director, Laurence Maté, and the project was initiated by the Barbier-Mueller family. So very much special thanks to them. In addition, we'd like to extend our thanks to the Steve McCurry Studio for their support, Bonnie McCurry, Biba Giacchetti, and Giuseppe Cironi of Sud-Est 57, all who supported this project. As an expert in photography, it's been my honor to contribute in a small way as author of text to the catalog, which is available on the museum website and in the store starting today. I'm going to start our talk off with just a very brief introduction of the exhibition and the museum, and a sneak peek into the show that we were able to film just this week for you. And then I will invite Steve to join me, and he can tell us a bit more about his perspective on this particular collaboration, his artistic process, and how this exhibition project in an unusual way highlights some of the more formal elements that may often remain unspoken in his work. So, founded in 1977, the Musée Barbier-Mueller is located in Geneva, Switzerland's beautiful old town. It's a very unique museum. The mission is to make the collection of arts of world's cultures accessible to the largest audience possible. The museum was founded by Jean-Paul Barbier-Mueller, but the collection began much earlier in 1907 by Joseph Mueller. And that mission continues on today through the work of the children and grandchildren. The museum hosts temporary exhibitions and produces publications of the masks, sculptures, ornaments, and fabrics from various cultures from Africa, Oceania, Asia, and the Americas, from classical and tribal antiquity in the collection. So in this exhibition project, Steve McCurry and the Musée Barbier-Mueller provide us with a new lens through which to view the work of one of photography's pioneering voices, alongside one of the finest collections of art and cultures of the world. Steve McCurry explores the philosophy of Wabi-Sabi, the beauty of the imperfect, of impermanence and incompleteness through 30 of his works that he selected just for this show. For me, when I was introduced to the project, the concept was immediately very interesting, not only for my work in photography, but as a museologist. The juxtaposition of museum objects with Steve McCurry's photographs is a really evocative curatorial action. And it asks for a compelling engagement of the visitor in their museum experience. So I'd like to put on a quick video, so while I talk a bit about the exhibition, you'll be able to see a bit more of what I'm talking about here. All right, so here we are in the museum. What the museum and Steve McCurry have created here is in some ways an aesthetic and formalist experiment. The photograph, like a sculpture or a painting, is composed using tools of a skilled artist, technique, light, emotion, color. And part of that storytelling process employed by McCurry includes a very patient and exacting attention to formal and graphic cues, and to objects and their narrative potential. So it's perhaps worth noting the museum didn't always pair objects from the same culture with photographs from a certain area of the world. On the contrary, these pairings were purposely selected just for the similarities of shape, line, and color. So the exhibition invites us to look differently, to generate a story using the images, using the objects, but also engaging our own personal histories, associations, cultural backgrounds. And so for me, I think it's a very exciting project and very unusual one, because the museum changes in this show from a repository of material culture, a place to conserve and preserve and present historical objects, to a new type of space for artistic dialogue across time, space, and media. So I mentioned earlier there is a catalog accompanying the exhibition, but you can see it here on the screen. So this is the cover of the catalog, which is for sale, as I said, on the museum website and in the store for 49 Swiss francs. And the catalog includes all of the 30 image plates of Steve's photographs from the exhibition, as well as very detailed entries about the objects that they've been paired with, the treasures from the museum collection. So highly recommended. So without further delay, now I'd like to introduce perhaps someone who needs no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway, Steve McCurry. Before I bring him on, I'll just say a few words about his background. So a photographer, master photographer with a career spanning more than 40 years. There is an otherworldliness that touches us when we look at Steve McCurry's photographs. They're both narratively rich and visually complex. They seem to have a gravitas that we could associate with an old master portrait or a grand landscape painting. He has been one of the most iconic figures in contemporary photography for more than 4 decades. So Steve, was an autodidactic photographer. So he's born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He studied cinematography at Pennsylvania State University. And then he went to work for a local newspaper. After 2 years, he made the first of what would be many trips to India. And traveling with little more than just a bag of clothes and film, he made his way across the subcontinent with his camera. After several months of travel, his trip led him to cross the border into Pakistan. He met a group of refugees there from Afghanistan. They then smuggle him across the border. And this is just as the Russian invasion was closing the country to Western journalists. So a very important and powerful moment to be there. He left after a few months when he could, wearing traditional dress with a full beard and having sewn his film into his clothes so that he could keep it with him. So it's quite the heroic origin story. But that's the kind of photographer that Steve McCurry is. Since then, he has gone on to create unforgettable images from over all 7 continents. His work spans conflict photography, photographs of vanishing cultures, ancient traditions, contemporary culture alike, yet he always maintains this interest and this focus on having a human element. He's been recognized with some of the most prestigious awards in our industry, including the Robert Capa Gold Medal, National Press Photographers Award, 4 First Prize Awards from World Press Photo, and the Royal Photographic Society in London awarded him the Century Medal for Lifetime Achievement. And in 2019, he was inducted into the International Hall of Fame for photography. So could not be more excited to talk with Steve today. So I'm just going to invite him to join us.
The nature of things which are that have been used, that are old, that have this
Yes.
quality about it, which is so wonderful. I mean, we all love, an old chair or a sculpture which had been used, or some precious object. But sometimes that imperfection, a piece of furniture or something which has that's has that the imperfect quality to it, makes it something more special. And that's what I've often, you walk down the sidewalk and there's this crack, a kind of a wonderful design that's happened, or a wall. I know we're going to talk about one of the pictures that I made.
Yeah, why don't I bring one of those up for you?
Okay.
So there are 30 of your photographs in the exhibition and in the publication, and let me see. This is kind of, I think, a favorite for both of us.
Right.
This one from Ethiopia, 2014.
Yeah, well, think about this, which I love this tree. I spent about a week in this village, and every time I walked past this tree, I was always fascinated because it has this really extraordinary shape. I mean, usually trees go kind of straight up. This one had that weird curve, that shape, and it's that imperfect quality to it, which is so beautiful. But yet the tree, although in this sort of odd configuration, it's still serving a wonderful purpose, giving shade to that goat on the left, and then this boy is with his toy, hoop. So as you can notice, that under the tree is actually green. It's a green patch where animals could come and feed. So that this odd, funny, imperfect shape is actually a really beautiful, just by nature, just by virtue of whatever happened, it's become this really beautiful shape.
Can I ask, how did you kind of come across? I mean, it's quite an amazing moment that you've captured with the goat, with the boy, and with this tree. And I can tell that the tree was kind of maybe a crucial element for you for that composition, for this image. So I'm just kind of curious about your process. Did you just stumble upon that? How did this happen?
Well, where I was living, I was living in a tent, and the village. Every time I went from where I was kind of staying to the village, it was about a 5-minute walk. I would walk past this tree sometimes 3-4 times a day. And so it became part of my routine to walk past this tree. And every time I walked past the tree at different times of the day or night, there were different moods, different light, different things happening. And so on one occasion, as I was walking past this tree, I saw this goat hanging out, and then this boy was just kind of running down the path. But I photographed it other times as well, but this had a certain magic to it because of the activities that were taking place. Tree.
That's interesting, to have kind of found this object and then waited for the spontaneity, actually.
Well, I'm a great believer in going back to the same places over and over. I worked in Angkor Wat. I did a book on Angkor Wat in Cambodia. I went back maybe 30 or 40 times back to the same temples, photographing different weather, different times of the day, different light, waiting for things to happen, people to walk by. And somehow it's part of my kind of meditative process when I'm shooting, to go back to the same places kind of over and over again.
Interesting. I have another, if you're willing, that is an image that really struck me as well in the book when I saw it. Also from Ethiopia. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, 2016. This one.
Well, those stone churches in Lalibela, northern Ethiopia, are kind of one of the great wonders of the world, because they literally carve these churches out of stone, underground. And to get to one of these churches, you had to take this tunnel. This is a pilgrim who was actually walking through the tunnel to the church.
Okay.
And they're probably, more than 1,500 years old. And the side of the wall, again, solid rock, is started to kind of get chipped away in time, creating this really wonderful design the shapes, the coloration. This is just natural kind of fungus on the wall, and it created this kind of work of art by itself. And I just marveled. And then as this woman, this pilgrim, this is one of the main pilgrimage spots in all of Ethiopia, walking away, it created this wonderful shape, almost like butterfly or a bird. The kind of the wind caught her drape and kind of blew it. So yeah, it was. I love this picture just because of the quality of this, the age and the deterioration of the wall created this beautiful place. It's Italy is so wonderful. These villages which take on this age and this imperfection. One of the pictures I think we're going to show is from a movie studio in Italy. So this is in the famous movie studios in the world at Cinecittà. Fellini and a lot of Stica and Scorsese had filmed some of the most iconic work here. And this is literally just a facade. It's kind of, the walls are cardboard and plaster. So it's all a bit of fantasy. But again, this sort of the deterioration and the coloration and how the thing is, this movie set, which was once grand and beautiful and perfect, now has become something other than what it was really designed to be. And I just love how it's kind of falling apart. That's what's so great about a lot of these old movie sets in the movie studio, Cinecittà, is that they're all in this state of decay, and it's become something more spectacular than what it was when it was first built.
And we have one more, if you're willing. This is one of the images that I was really moved by when you told me the story of it for the book when we were talking. So could you tell us a bit about this spectacular scene?
Well, this is a pagoda, again, probably 1,000 years old, and it's the largest pagoda in the world. There's a lot of mythology around it, but while it was being built, an earthquake, and that's all stone, it's all brickwork. There's tens of millions of bricks to made up this pagoda, and during this earthquake, there are these fissures and these the cracks, creating these kind of wonderful lines. So you had this pagoda, which was going to be this, painted white, it was going to be beautiful and perfect, and yet what happened was the earthquake changed the plan. The cracks happened, and it was never completed. And so, and it's actually, there's these really small figures of these novice monks going up to an altar, which is still inside the pagoda, but as a finished piece, it never happened. And what we're left with is this imperfect, beautiful, colossal object, which is become even more sought after for visitors and travelers and tourists to come to this place. It's probably the third most famous pagoda in Burma, in Myanmar.
And so I know that you mentioned this is a place that you'd been to a number of times. This photograph happened one of those many times that you'd visited the same site. You often go back to the same sites. I imagine maybe there are still some places you haven't yet visited you'd like to go. I'm not sure how many there are. But what kind of keeps you going? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I think it's curiosity. I think we have this one life to live. It's short. What do we do with our time? I think things like music and art, and travel, seeing the wonders of the world, going to Kyoto, going to Florence, seeing these incredible, or the Grand Canyon, these places which enrich our lives and tell us so much about life and what we've done, what humanity has created, but also what nature's created. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon in Arizona and how it took a river, took a desert, and basically turned it into this incredible work of art. Mm-hmm. So what keeps me going is just a passion for life and art and creating, photographing things that I think are important and what I've appreciated and what I want to share with other people. And I think that's a never-ending passion and an obsession to go out and see as much as I can and experience as much as I can with whatever time I have left.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Steve McCurry, you are so famous and such a master photographer at this point. You've had many exhibitions, many publications. I have to say, I was very excited at the idea of doing something so different. And I think that the idea that your team and the museum have come up with, that you've come up with together, is a really fresh approach that really draws on, like you're saying, this element of your artistic process that maybe wasn't always so evident to the public, but is always in the back of your mind when you're making pictures. So I think that that's been something that is really fantastic that I hope visitors will be able to take away from this project.
The photograph and the object in the museum, I think it's so extraordinary how the synergy, how these two things compare and become something wonderful to look at these two things. I think it's really extraordinary. And I have to say, Laurence Maté, is the director, has been a huge help and inspiration to help make this exhibition happen. And I was so pleased when I seen what they did with these incredible objects which were collected over so many years, and then with my photographs. It's really it's a work of art in itself. I'm really honored.
Well, we hope that maybe, if I can speak for everyone, we hope that maybe you'll get to come to Geneva at the end of the show, or I don't know when, to see it, and if not, hope to meet in person someday. I'd like to take I have one question for you from the audience, and then I think we're going to have to sign off after that. And it was an interesting one. So how did your practice or your experience evolve over the years as a photographer? Is there something that stands out? And did your worldview change? I guess it's kind of a couple questions into one. If you like one better than the other, feel free to.
Well, I think that one thing I've noticed traveling around is this shared humanity that we have, this commonality. I mean, we kind of know that we're all the same, whether you're in, China or Russia or Europe or Africa, or South America, wherever. But when you actually, leave New York, for instance, fly to Moscow or Nairobi or Buenos Aires or Japan or whatever, to be able to see how we connect and how talking to a taxi driver in one of these places, how we are the same people. And I'm constantly reminded about how we have more similarities, more, the differences in the world. And that it seems so kind of obvious and trite and cliche, but that somehow we should kind of join forces and come together. And what we have in common is so much more than our differences. And whether you're, Buddhist or Muslim or Catholic or Hindu or whatever, we're all basically trying to get through the day and want the best for our families and look forward to the weekend and look forward to a good book and listen to the music and whatnot. So that's kind of what I've learned in this short and how the depth of beauty in the world. I mean, you could spend a lifetime just digging through the beauties and the art and just India alone. Not to mention, just that's one country. You can, and that there's China and Russia and Africa. And it's so there's just not enough time to really absorb everything, and that's the kind of real pity and kind of regret that I'm not going to be able to really see everything and photograph everything that I wanted to. I have a long list of like 15 books I want to do in my life, and I'm sure I'm going to be able to get. I'm going to give it my best try though to get through.
You are absolutely a different kind of collector, I think. No, and I think it's so. I mean, maybe before this year, that would be something that I think many of us couldn't even begin to comprehend what you're saying about these underlying similarities in humanity. But I think that it's amazing as a takeaway from your life experience, and I think it's something that maybe we can all start to share with you, and hope that after this year that there will be more collaboration, and it does show us that we're kind of all in this together. We do. We're all going to get out of it together too, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
So it has been such a pleasure this evening, and over the course of this project, to have the honor to interview Steve and to talk with you. Thank you so much. I'd like to extend also my thanks to Laurence Maté, the director of the museum, and their team for the invitation to host tonight's live, and also for what's been a wonderful collaboration, mostly at a distance, but that's this year. Once again, just a small reminder, the exhibition Wabi-Sabi, Beauty in Imperfection, La Beauté dans l'Imperfection, opens today in Geneva, Switzerland, and will be open until June 15th, 2021. For general visits, the museum is open 365 days a year from 11 to 5, including national holidays, so no excuses not to get there before June 15th. That is just COVID restrictions permitting, of course. One last thing, please be sure to check out the book online. It is really exceptional, and if you're not able to go see the show, the pairings work also very well in the book form, because you'll really be able to make this kind of formal comparisons that we're talking about. And so, yeah, I'm Holly Roussell. This is Steve McCurry. We're here for the Barbier-Mueller Museum in Geneva, wishing you all a wonderful end of the year, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Bye. Thanks.